Hello to all. Here today with a bit more of a traditional opening. Here today with the Tier 10 Russian Super Light, the Smolensk. Now, I don't think I've ever featured the Smolensk on my channel before, but needless to say, it's a incredibly toxic ship. Now, in the Captain Rework, Regi has taken away the ability to launch, or to mount AFT on the Smolensk, which cuts your range down to a much more reasonable 13.8. But, yeah, we don't care about that, so we're just gonna mount a range module and get around that. Go closer to our original range of 16. It used to be about 16.5, 16.8. And yeah, whatever, our reload went down a little bit, but remember the Smolensk is one of the few ships after the rework that can benefit from taking heavy HE shells, which is kind of like BFT light in some ways. Now we're running a kind of destroyer-esque build. Note there's no priority target, so we're running last stand. And then pyrotechnician, superintendent for an extra smokescreen charge, so this is a bit of a change. Actually, I think I used to run superintendent as well on my Grossi build. AR, HE shells, survivability expert for that extra bit of HP, push her up to 35,000. And because we can't run AFT anymore and IFHE is kind of worthless, we are running concealment expert, so we're actually gonna have better concealment than my old Smolensk. I believe my old Smolensk had about 11 kilometer detection, but now we're gonna be 10 kilometers. So yeah, Ouija says fuck you, cruisers can't take AFT anymore, and so Colbert gets its gets a little messed up. But Smolensk is probably just gonna take range module, and you'll be back to old Smolensk anyhow. Your reload will be 12% longer, but with Smolensk is lovely, very balanced 16 rifle broadside. I highly doubt that you're going to be missing that 13% fire or 13% overall DPM very much. Now the Smolensk as a super light does have a relatively vulnerable hull. She's actually particularly vulnerable to large supercruisers like Stalingrad, Puerto Rico, Alaska, and cruiser killers like the Salem Des Moines class cruisers, but outside of those specialists or more specialized hunters of cruisers, she's pretty potent against most destroyers and battleships. Her ammunition is of course the 130mm Grozovoi gun, as we wait in the queue because apparently no one wants to play World of Warships right now. Which of course makes her extremely deadly against destroyers and battleships alike. It's the high velocity Grozovoi destroyer shell, which is definitely a potent armament. Alright, hopefully the queue will drop soon. Usually tier 10 battles don't take too long, lots of destroyers and battleships in the queue, but apparently not of high enough tier to get me into a match. But we shall see. I'm sure soon we'll be dropping. And there we have it. A bit of a longer prelude to the game, since we did do that bit of a port overview magic, but not to worry. Okay, no carrier in this match, so one less thing to worry about. And in pure tier 10s, lots of destroyers, and there's also an enemy Smolensk as well. In terms of super heavy cruisers, the Venezia is not a super heavy, but it does do a lot of damage to you if it catches you off guard. One radar to worry about, lots of destroyers, and then a couple of battleships to incinerate. Which of course, as you may know, is a favorite pastime of the Smolensk. So like I said, fairly light hull at just shy of 36,000 with this survivability expert build. But pretty decent concealment at 10 kilometers. Have that 5 km hydro, my 3 smoke charges, and 4 heal charges. And more importantly, the Smolensk is very thin in profile, so not the easiest target to hit. Now we are on shards, mode is domination, and we are at the enemy's home cap. So on shards, the map's kind of split down the middle by this kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, Pokeball shaped middle cap. And then the top spawn gets this cap. Note that the islands are on our side, and then The bottom spawn gets this cap, a cap which I spawned at, which you will note has all that island cover nearby their territory. Now with that range extension provided by that 16% range module, which for some gross oversight they allow me to keep taking, I still do have my 16 kilometers of range, so I'm just going to glide toward one of these islands over here, make use of my good concealment to minimize the amount of damage I take as they push in. I do have 2 destroyers here. It's a fairly destroyer heavy game with 5 per side. Now I do have AP loaded, just going to switch over to HE. 16 rifles with a 4.5 second reload means I will make mincemeat of any destroyer I happen to potentially spot, or more likely happen to have spotted for me. You need to watch my course. Kind of sailing full broadside, but there's nothing on my radar, or visibility range rather, that's particularly threatening. Just gonna pull up over here, and you can see the angles rearward are quite excellent. Nothing spectacular, but definitely good angles. Saying very defensively, look at where my allies are, and my Moskva is my nearest ally, and he's not particularly close. This GK's more than likely not going to be very useful. My Holland's avoiding the cap like a plague. No one's destroyers have yet to touch the cap, even though it's a 5 destroyer game. The Moskva radar does catch something. Oh, okay, I should have stagger fired that. Gonna miss my first salvo on this Harugumo. Gonna just slowly stagger fire. Remember, I don't have priority target, so I do have to be a little bit careful. Priority target now costs 2 points. And I'm not saying it's not worth 2 points, but I'm going for a bit of a greedier farming build, so I opted to take Fire Chance. That Fire Chance skill at 2 points for cruisers is not particularly valuable, but for most cruisers that is. However, for the Smolensk, which you're firing 16 shells at once, well, it's a pretty darn good skill. He's gonna speed juke, slow down to dodge the majority of my shells, but I am gonna glance and get a good hit onto him. Trying for the AP shells because he was fairly broadside, but you can see the enemy Smolensk is equally maneuverable, and there are a large spread of Shimakaze torpedoes coming in from the center. From the amount of distance from which they were spotted, these are more than likely Shimakaze 20 kilometers. Spotted again. Not sure by what. Oh, actually, it's by the destroyer in front of us. The GK has a Hydro running, but it's not going to do very much versus these probably Holland torpedoes. Going to duck behind this cover here. That narrow spread telling me it's a Holland. I highly doubt he's going to open up. That Harugumo seems to have reversed back in. Just going to get myself off this rock position, and we can recontest the cap. Enemy Smolensk opening up. Gonna duck into cover. Our rudder is not the best as we lose the Shimakaze to match the enemy Harugumo that went down in the north. Unspotted, so he's not too far out. They are going to take this cap. I'm definitely not going to be contesting it or anything like that. But as I was saying, the rudder shift, while good, is not particularly excellent. There's that low HP Harugumo, attempting to take the cap again. I cannot get any fire onto him at this time. Maybe the Holland can dent him. Not willing to push that corner. There was a repub that was pushing quite a while ago. We haven't seen him for a little bit. And the Moskva combined with the Holland do manage to take down that Harugumo. Worcester is still in his old position, so a conservative play. Not necessarily that necessary. Smolensk popping up there, showering my Moskva with shells. Spotted by the enemy destroyer in this gap, more than likely. Repub has not pushed at all, just sitting at the back. Deadeye, maybe Deadeye Repub. Let me just say, at this time and moment, Deadeye is a terrible fucking skill for the game. So, don't know what people are thinking, but if that's what the devs want, that's what the devs want, right? So, spotted by something after firing, hard to say. Don't know if I'm targeted by anything because of my lack of priority target. There's a Kremlin over there, but we are currently contesting. Just gonna let my gun bloom fade. Oh, don't like that. It's like a Shimakaze Quint. Firing does give me bloom again. Let my turrets turn onto this Worcester, which is potentially contesting my Holland. But he's retreating, not going to be pushing too far in. So I'm able to quite easily defend him. Oh, there's a destroyer probably right behind that Kremlin on the far side. Or maybe even on our side. Hard to say. The Kremlin's about to crest that corner. Switching to armor piercing because he's pretty broadside to us. Grozy armor piercing is quite potent. Someone's shooting at me. Or maybe at the Moskva beside me. You can see some nice penetrations in spite of the fairly extended distance with the Smolensk AP. So we lost the central cap, and we are continuing to lose ships. Hard to get a vector with just a minimap. That's fine, we can push back in. Shimakaze did take the cap from that. Spotted briefly. By my gun bloom. Playing very conservatively at the moment, but they're not pushing in. There's that Holland that's been harassing us this whole match, in terms of spotting us whenever we fire. Since I do not appreciate that, I'm probably just going to open up here. Now this is a bit dangerous. I am in front of several ships, including that Hindenburg. But I do really want to put my damage out onto this Holland while he's spotted by my allied radar. You can see that HE. Looks like he's turning for the border there. Go with one last blind salvo. Hindenburg trying to use AP, but he doesn't overmatch my hull, so don't see the point of that. Worcester right there. Just dent me there, because I'm showing a bit too much side. But now at this juncture, I'm just going to shower him. You can see that Worcester's just out of range, going to discourage him from pushing me. Enemy Smolensk giving me some blind fire. Hindenburg did damage control, so I'm gonna try and give him some hell. It is dangerous to broadside here, but you gotta do what you gotta do. There's my fire. Still another 27 seconds on this first smoke puff. Breaking all his modules, but not doing much else. Smolensk rushing my Moskva. I'm actually going to turn away and engage the Smolensk, because my smoke's going to fade anyway. The Smolensk does have torpedoes per side, so my Moskva is not long for this world, I imagine. Smolensk AP versus Smolensk Citadel. I don't know if he failed his torps or something, or maybe whiffed them from being too close, but I'm going to shred him as best I can. Hollands pops up. Ten overpens on that Holland. Gonna try and eliminate him with that radar. Maintain my angle against that Hindenburg. He's gonna beach. You can see the withering firepower of 16 rifles. I'm anticipating he's gonna accelerate. Pop a heal. Worcester is harassing me. Angle against that Hindi AP. As best I can, but you see me take a nice 7k chunk. As a result, the rudder shift is not the most responsive because it is, in the end, still a Russian cruiser. Holland's corpse from before he became deceased. Showing up off my side. Not much left of my allies, unfortunately. I'm gonna do my best to influence the match with what I got, but have to be very careful. 2 smokes left. This repub should actually be able to dispatch my Moskva fairly easily. I know that I saw briefly that Worcester, so I do have to be careful. Hard to get a blind maneuvering shot, or blind shots onto this maneuvering repub. So I'm going to be spotted soon if that Worcester advances. Trying for superstructure shots. Switching to armor piercing because he's quite broadside, he's nosing in now. And there's that Worcester I mentioned, that would open up on us. Now he pens me and I don't pen him with HE, but he hasn't smartened up yet and switched back. I'm quite angled, so Worcester AP's not going to pen me at this angle. Oh, an angry repub. Two heal charges left, so I'm gonna spend one just to get some healable HP. I'm expecting to get harassed here. There's that repub AP. Angle for that. But you can see his overmatch does hurt quite a bit. Gonna smoke up at this point. Disengage. Continue moving slightly while in the smoke, but I'm gonna be giving a lot of signature in terms of where my location is. He fades. I'm actually gonna have to play for time here, so. Thump torps, they're only 8km torpedoes, so I'm not gonna have the range for sure, but we're just gonna slip away. At this point. Only 5 fires this game, but we're not firing the whole match. Now Smolensk fairly fast as a super light. You can see 33 knots here. Oh gosh, there's that Worcester, and he has AP loaded. Oh, he has HE loaded. Repub's gonna put some holes into me. He's turning broadside, so I'm gonna switch to armor piercing. Repub actually manages to catch one of my shells, surprisingly enough. You can see that 6k chunk of AP. He's broadsiding, giving me the disrespect. Another 6k. Gonna eliminate him first. At this point, he's low enough where I'm gonna just use HE, even though he's turning broadside. We do dispatch him. Pop my last heal. I still have Kuznetsov, remember, because of the captain rework. So if my Hindenburg can win the 1v1 versus the enemy Hindi, and I can win my 1v1, then we actually have a shot to win this game. Doing my best to throttle jockey, moving kind of slowly. You can see fully braked. Repub is... Oh, my Hindenburg does win. Gotta bring myself up to speed. And you can see that Smolensk AP is insanely powerful. And with that kill, we're actually going to win the match because the enemy was foolish enough to actually push us and lose the trades. So you can see the Smolensk remains an incredibly disgusting ship even after the rework. We lost our range from AFT, but wasn't a big deal as you can see. So 212,000. Honestly, nothing to write home about with the Smolensk, but 579 shells fired, 1 torpedo hit, 8 incapacitations, 4 kills, 10 fires, 1 flooding, 4 citadels, 2 defender ribbons, and 2 spotting ribbons. For a Confederate high-caliber dreadnought. And then team score-wise, a pretty solid 3,388 base experience. A bit of a slaughter at the very end. Now if we go to detailed report-wise, in spite of Smolensk's reputation as a disgusting HE spammer, which it is, its AP is actually quite powerful. 56,000 AP alpha you will note there. And as you saw, hers is that Worcester. Those 2 salvos for 6k plus were obviously quite critical in dropping that Smolensk. And then at the end, another 16,000 of AP into the repub as well. AP to finish off my Smolensk counterpart. Even that 10 over penetrations AP shell salvo still did 3.4k to that Holland because of the Smolensk's 16 barrels and various amounts of fire damage to that Hindenburg. Now I am rocking only a 19-point commander. I only really had the elite captain experience to push 1 captain up to 21 points, so I've currently put my Halsey up since I play a lot of American ships, but Kuznetsov is definitely in the runnings to come next. Now Kuznetsov is normally my Russian super heavy commander, so eventually he will be spec'd more towards Kronstadt, Stalingrad, and he's actually my home captain. He's home captained on the Kremlin, as you can see here, but because of the captain rework, I can now have captains with destroyer builds for destroyer and cruiser builds and other ships as well. But do keep in mind that Smolensk is still classified as a cruiser, even though she has a very destroyer-esque build, as you can see here. So I'm actually going to redistribute this after. So this is my current 19-point build, so last stand into the Biotechnician. Now this skill is very, very bad, so I would not recommend taking this on the vast majority of cruisers except as your last few points. But because the Smolensk has 16 barrels, it is kind of worth it. You don't actually really need priority target that much. I know I missed it during that match, but as long as you pay attention to what you're doing a little more and you just assume that you're going to be shot at every time you get spotted, you don't actually need priority target, strictly speaking. It is very nice to have, but so I opted to take Pyrotechnician because of the good synergy. For my third 3-pointer, I would actually opt for Survivability Expert. As I mentioned, Smolensk extremely squishy, so this 3,500 HP does end up coming in handy. And then I would actually take all of these 3 pointers first, so Superintendent, Adrenaline Rush, and this heavy HE shells before I went back for Concealment Expert. Because while the Concealment was obviously very nice in that match there, kept me from being completely outspotted by the Worcester at the end, for example. We kind of spotted each other at the same time. He has 9.7 Concealment, I believe. So not too much different from my 10.0. But I would take everything up here before then, and then Concealment Expert, and that's my 19-point build. Now, we do have access to 21 points now, so the easy answer to how you would finish off the build for a Smolensk is to just take priority target. However, there is something to be said for not taking something. Let's see. So I could take... I can only take 1 4-pointer and 1 2-pointers. Not too much to take, really, for Smolensk. That might actually be the best in slot. You could opt not to take Concealment Expert and in exchange take something. These skills are actually all trash for Smolensk, so okay. Having taken a look at what's actually available, your choices are between taking Consumables Enhancements for some extra Smoke Generator and Hydroacoustic time. Now, Smoke Generator is the action time, so how long it's laying its smoke, so it's not actually going to affect how long the smoke is running for other than just one single tick. But it is nice for the hydroacoustic, and you can get a slightly larger smoke. I think it's going to give you 1 extra puff to 1.5-ish extra puffs of smoke, which lets you lay a larger smoke cloud in case people are trying to blind fire you. But the default choice, I would say, with the last 2 points of a 21-point commander would be priority target. So just to reiterate, I would probably go Last Stand into Pyrotechnician into Survivability Expert or Superintendent, your choice. And then fill out with whichever one you didn't take. So 1, 3, 6, 9. This one's always active and it doesn't give you a penalty because of the small caliber. So 12, 15, 19, and then go back for whatever 2-pointer you want. I'm going to redistribute here because currently redistributions are free. This is not going to stick around, however, so don't count on being able to do that. As I mentioned, as I did mention, this is usually my Stalingrad commander, and Stalingrad definitely does not want the same spec of skills as the Smolensk. So I'm just going to move my boy Kuznetsov back. But yeah, before we finish up, Smolensk, by the way, at the back here, banished to ships we play only when the player base is being extremely obnoxious. Go over my modules now. As I did show you at the beginning of the match, I did switch out my module to range module just in case I want the extra range. So slot 1 main armaments, slot 2 engine room, just to keep your engine running up. Slot 3 aiming systems. You could go for traverse, but the traverse is already extremely fast, so getting that slightly tighter dispersion is pretty nice. If you have a hydroacoustics module for slot 3, it's actually quite good to get that longer self-defense hydro time. Slot 4 propulsion, just to get started from when you're at a stop in a smoke cloud. Slot 5 concealment to bring it down. Now you could actually go for rudder shift. As I mentioned, the Smolensk rudder is not fantastic. And you'd still only be at 11.2 with a captain with concealment expert, so that's actually definitely an option I would consider. The more I think about it, actually, the more attractive it seems, but maybe we'll try that next time. And last but not least, gunfire control systems with range, just to get back up to 16 kilometers to get that old AFT range. Now, if you're comfortable with 13.8, you can, of course, take reload, but I do think the extra flexibility of the having 16 kilometers of range versus just shy of 14 far exceeds the extra potential firepower because you'll just be firing your rifles at more targets, especially more distant battleships for more of the match. 4.5 second reload is more than enough when you have 16 barrels. With that said, that was the Smolensk in 0.10.0. Pretty brief intro, outro, but it ended up being kind of an exciting game. I thought it was definitely looking dicey until the enemy, well, as they do in World of Warships, decided to push in and kill themselves. But yeah, the Smolensk excels at punishing people who push in when they shouldn't be. So there you have it. Smolensk in 0.10. Catch you all later. Cheers.